It's all about quantity when it comes to fee negotiations because insurance companies are going to reduce other fees that are not as commonly used, but we want to make sure that through our data extraction and calculations, we are always benefiting the practice. And at Preferred, we always increase the revenue on average by about 20% per year for insurance collections. So we get some really good negotiations.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. I want to thank the sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the doc sites, for their continued support. I also want to remind everybody that just in 1 week from now, next week, the second annual Supercharge Your Dental Practice will take place in Scottsdale, Arizona at the Scott Resort and Spa. If you're listening to this and are in the area and want to grab a last-minute ticket, you can go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com and use the code RAVING to save money on registration. I hope to see you there. But it's literally a week from now. I'm getting excited. 2025, we'll be back in Florida at a new resort called Pier 66. So stay tuned for the speaker announcements and all the fun things that are going to happen when we bring it back to Florida. My guest is a repeat guest, which she should be honored because I don't have too many of them on here. Is Angela Holland from Preferred Dental Solutions. She's a highly sought after insurance expert and practice consultant. Angela is on a mission to empower dentists to maximize their success as business owners. So please welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast for the second time, and also a vendor at Supercharge Your Dental Practice, Angela Holland. Angela, thank you so much for joining me again today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here a second time. It's always fun to connect with you.
Yes, it is, and obviously, I'm not. I don't want to say I'm envious of your achievements, but I'm really excited to hear about things that have happened. Why don't we first start off by telling people about yourself? I talked a little bit about here, but kind of a little bit about you, your company that you have now started since you sold to the other company, and a little bit about the acquisition and the process that got involved there. So let's start there.
Sure, absolutely. So in 2019, I started my previous company. We were a remote and revenue cycle management company. We worked with practices nationwide. I had a team of the best billing specialists in the industry that worked with me to help dental practices increase their insurance collection one claim at a time. And I believe that through honestly, just doing the right thing and being the experts in the industry, I was able to scale my company from 2019 to selling it in 2023. And it was a huge, huge achievement that I'm very proud of still today. And I sometimes am on cloud nine even still today. That being said, my passion for what I do is working with dentists and dental insurances and playing the dental insurance game. So I've changed my path just slightly because, I can no longer do revenue cycle management just to abide by the contract that I have with the purchasing company. And we are offering insurance credentialing and fee negotiation, and we are doing it nationwide again. We are really honing in on those long-term relationships that we've had with dental insurance companies nationwide, and we are working to grow insurance practices one fee schedule at a time now, which is super fun and again, just ignites my passion, which is helping dentists win with the insurance game.
So I want to ask a second question based on that. You're not a practicing dentist. You're in the dental space. I was a dentist. I sold to another company as well. It wasn't a public company. It's still not a public company. It's private still. But everybody who listens or is in the dental space has always have visions of grandeur for themselves, and they want an exit or they want a way to you kind of go to the next step of their life. Can you talk really about what made the decision to, you only had, I think, 4 years at the time. Can you talk about what or why you decided to kind of transition to being bought out and then coming back out and starting over again almost?
Yeah, absolutely. So full transparency, the company that wanted to purchase mine approached me when I was 6 months pregnant with my second child and I had a toddler running around. So the offer in and of itself was incredible. I also started my company sitting at my kitchen table in 2019, working 14, 15 hours a day. And my husband would come home from work and leave for work, and I'd be in the exact same spot doing the exact same thing. So Of course, when I was sitting at the kitchen table working those long hours, I would look up at my husband and I would say, just hang in there a couple more months, couple more years, we're going to make it. And I worked hard to build my company, and I always I always treated my clients, the dentist, I always treated them how I'd want to be treated. And so my morals and values were always just very natural with how I operated my company as a successful company. So I, of course, just like every dentist that purchases a practice, every person in the dental industry, we all dream of building this amazing company and selling it. That's, I think, the ultimate dream of everyone. And I found a company that I thought aligned with my morals and values and that had the same dreams that I wanted. And just like dentists, when they purchase a private practice, I was a lone wolf. Yes, I had my amazing team working with me and for me, but when it came to the business operations, I was working by myself. So having that collaboration to work with a company that would support my decisions, be able to supply things that I needed from maybe growing my company from a software perspective, because everything I did was super manual. All of that sounded really amazing. And so when they approached me, it was kind of, the dream scenario. They were going to purchase my company. I would work for them, and I did work for them for a time period after I sold. And we were going to grow this. We were going to grow my previous company. So I think it's a similar feeling that dentists, I would assume, feel when they sell to a purchasing company and they work back for the practice. And so it's this huge dream of carrying on and growing a bigger practice to help more people. For me, it was to help more dentists.
Well, that's great. That's great. So, I know that you transitioned from doing billing, which you can't do anymore, to credentialing and fee negotiation, which are super important for practices to get right the first time. So can you talk about the process, and why it's so important, and how to prepare for it? Because it does take some time. If you're purchasing a practice, when you buy the practice is not when you want to do that. You have to have it ready. So, because otherwise you can't bill stuff. So can you go over that process for people so they don't understand the importance of it?
Absolutely. So if you're starting as a acquiring dentist or starting a startup and you're wanting to get credentialed, that's the act of getting acknowledged and recognized with insurance companies. So that's where you're going to start as a new grad or a newly acquiring dentist, and we're going to get you credentialed with insurance companies that serve your practice. A big misconception for those early on credentialing dentists is that you have to accept whatever fee schedule is offered to you. And that's not true. I recommend that you have an expert that knows how to work with insurances, because you can actually start with fee negotiations and fee optimization from the first time you're ever credentialed. So I think it's super important that we make it known in the industry that even startups, for new grads, we do have negotiating power, and I would really encourage you to spend a little bit of money to invest in yourself and your practice for the long term. Another reason that you want to get credentialed properly from the beginning is because once you lock in those fee schedules, they can be locked in for 2 years. So we want to make sure that from day one of practicing, you're credentialed on the highest fee schedules with the right networking and way of being credentialed, so that you can bring in as much revenue from day one. And then it's also a misconception that you can submit under the selling doctor's tax IDs. I've even heard of dental attorneys encouraging the purchasing doctor to go ahead, don't worry, just submit under the selling doctor's tax ID until you get credentialed. And we cannot do that. That is considered insurance fraud. And the best case scenario, the best way to proceed is to simply submit out of network insurance billing. So we want to make sure that we have as little time of out of network credentialing, but there are some tips and tricks that we can coach our clients on to make sure that they are maximizing the insurance reimbursement, but also limiting the amount out of pocket for patients so that you don't lose any of those patients that you're acquiring through the acquisition.
Now that makes a whole lot of sense. When I bought my practice, I was out of network, so there really wasn't a whole much. I mean, I had to credential, but there wasn't a whole lot. I didn't have to worry about the billing part of it as much. When I actually brought an associate in, which was in 2017, I used a insurance credentialing company to do negotiations and credentialing for the new associate because she wanted to go in network, and that caused all sorts of problems for the practice in the get-go to have a split practice, half in network, half out of network. That was not the best thing that I created. But I remember the process. They asked me for like the top 25 fees or the top 25 procedures plus the fees. They went to the insurance companies and negotiated on that behalf. But that was, like I said, that was 7 years ago now. So I'm assuming the process may have changed a little bit. So can you talk about the credentialing and fee negotiation process and what's involved so someone who is thinking about it can understand the extent of what you do to get their rates raised, I guess you would say?
Absolutely. So once you're credentialed with an insurance company, you can do what's called a fee negotiation or fee review, fee optimization. And what we do for fee optimization or negotiations is we actually we use a licensed software to extract all that data from their practice management software. So it pulls data like top 30 codes, which insurances, how many fee cash to insurance ratio, which insurances are the most popular at that practice, how many patients are utilizing that insurance. We extract so much data from the practice management software that once we have all that data, it really is king in the insurance fee negotiation process. So not only are we going to evaluate all that data, but we're also going to make sure that the UCR fees are up to date within the 80 to 85th percentile for that practice's zip code. So it's very customized. And then for that year as well. So for example, we're in 2024. We want to make sure that you're within the 80th to 85th percentile for 2024 of your zip code. Then from there, Preferred Dental Solutions is going to reach out to all the insurance companies that you're currently networked with and see what process or which network is the best for your practice. Sometimes being directly contracted with an insurance company is the best solution for a practice, and other times utilizing what's called TPAs or third-party, relationships is the more lucrative. Now, with TPAs, I always suggest 2 or less TPAs per practice because it can create some confusion when doing insurance verification. So we want to make sure that that process is always as smooth as possible. But also with TPAs, if you're not directly contracted, you may not be able to accept all the patients that come under that specific insurance. So it's really important, again, that we go back to our data that we've extracted to make sure we're not losing too many patients or that we're signing up for a TPA that's actually better utilized within your practice. So there's a lot of data-based processes to the system. And then when we contact insurance, it has to do with reviewing updated fee schedules that are being offered, having the dentist sign different agreements that are updated. And then from there, making sure that we have a live date and updated fee schedules provided to the office to consider it completed.
So just to clarify for people who may not know what that means, a TPA is a third-party administrator, and they basically are an umbrella policy that have a lot of other policies, that a lot of insurance plans are underneath them, and you sign up for one and you're then incorporated to all those different plans. So can you, for those that are not as attuned to this, can you go over some of the more common third-party administrators? And then when you do that, can you talk about, there are also some insurance companies that you are not included in those and you have to go to direct to those companies. So can you just touch base on that so people understand that?
Absolutely. So thank you for clarifying the TPAs, third-party administrators. So some of the common TPAs would be companies like Connection, Carrington, DHA, Zealous. There's quite a few TPAs that are pretty commonly negotiated within the industry. And then under those, there are certain plans that do not work with TPAs. For example, Delta Dental never falls under a TPA. You must do direct contracting with Delta Dental 100% of the time, should you choose to accept.
That makes a whole lot of sense. So I also want to make it clear to people that, we only talked about the most common fees because those are the procedures that you're doing the most often. So you want to make sure you get a better reimbursement for those procedures, and the ones you don't do as often, it really doesn't matter in that case because you're going to make the significant money back by doing the most procedures more often. So that's why the data in has to be really important. So don't nickel and dime, just let them do their work so they can get these fees that you're doing more often at higher reimbursements.
Yes, it's all about quantity when it comes to fee negotiations, because insurance companies are going to reduce other fees that are not as commonly used, but we want to make sure that through our data extraction and through calculations that we are always benefiting the practice. And at Preferred, we always increase the revenue on average by about 20% per year for insurance collections. So we get some really good negotiations.
So talk about that. So how do you go about increasing the revenue really with them not doing any work anymore, because they can do that. Now, again, you're basing it on previous data. So as long as they do the same amount of work they did previously, and they're going to have an increase in their revenue because of that. Obviously, if they decrease the procedures they're doing, their money won't increase. But as long as they stay level with what they did the previous time frame, you're going to end up having a raise because of that.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. So as long as the practice continues to do what they are doing or more, they will always have an increase in insurance collections, which we actually have a guarantee. We guarantee to increase their insurance collections by negotiating fees with us because we're going off of data. So if we can look back and say, hey, this practice performs, 75 crowns in 3 months, we're expecting that they would continue to perform those. We go off of annual stats. So the stats are a little bit more, they go with the ebbs and flows of the industry, seasons, things like that. So we take all of that into account. And then during the negotiation process, even if we increase a fee by $5, $6, that's still a significant increase times however many crowns they're doing on an annual basis, or however many pro fees, exams, whatever it may be. So all of that is taken into account. And then as long as you continue doing the same or more of the same services, then you are going to increase by, we've done hundreds of thousands of dollars in annual increases. For some practices that have not negotiated in the last, 3, 5+ years, which you can negotiate fees about every 24 months. So we suggest that you do take advantage of that every 24 months.
That was my next question. You beat me to it. Was I know there's a limitation how often you can do it. So it's once every 2 years basically that you're able to renegotiate.
Yes, and with our clients, we track that through our CRM. So anytime that you're due for fee negotiations, we reach back out and say, "Can you believe it's been 2 years?" Because the time really does fly. And with insurance fee negotiation, it's not something that's glaring you in your face, saying like, "Hey, we need to update this." There's other systems and making sure the schedule's full, making sure you're abiding by HIPAA, OSHA guidelines, all of these things that are constantly glaring you in your face as a practice owner. Whereas the fee negotiations, hopefully it will cross your mind every 2 years. So we take over that for them and make it so that the practice owners don't have to worry.
So I wanted to ask a question because this is a very crowded space. There's a lot of companies in the credentialing and fee negotiation space. A lot of them have very good reputations. I had another company on here before talking about it, and their process was different in terms of how they billed the client. One of them, which I liked, was that they basically put their money where their mouth is, and they billed, or they took a percentage of the savings based on previous years. Again, you assume you're going to do the same. So they basically took a savings based on last year's data for the increase that they got. How do you work when it comes to the fee schedule, the fee, what you charge the client? You mentioned that you ideally want them to do 2 years. So is it the repetitive cost every 2 years? Talk to me about that so people understand how the billing for what you do works.
Sure, absolutely. So we keep it very simple. Just like with my old company, we provide a white glove service. We see it through, and we have a guarantee. So if we do not raise your insurance collections, then we refund your money. So we truly stand behind our work. And the way we operate is we have a flat fee for credentialing per location per provider, as well as a flat fee for fee negotiation and optimization per location per provider. For the recurring, there's no need. In medical and dental credentialing is a little different. Medical, you would stay on a retainer for credentialing and insurance networking. However, with dental, it's not necessary to stay on a retainer. So we do offer a discounted rate for our return clients because we know exactly where your networks are. Whereas when we have a new client come in, there's a lot more digging and a lot more work that goes into even establishing what networks you're currently following on.
Got it. That makes a whole lot of sense. So is there anything else that you wanted to talk about other than the fact that I'm curious why people would choose you over other companies? Again, I know you've been in this space for a really long time. To some extent, a different aspect of it. You were doing the billing and the revenue cycle management. This is another key part of the insurance process, which is, credentialing and negotiation. But why would people choose you if your main focus was something differently before?
So we are the first step of the revenue cycle management. So yes, my company offered billing, which is a different service, but it goes hand in hand with insurance credentialing. Also, fun fact, while I was building my other company, I was doing credentialing to stay afloat. So as I would continue to hire billing specialists, I would subsidize my income and my growing family, support my growing family by doing credentialing. So I have over 10 years of experience doing credentialing. I truly am an insurance expert, and I can say that confidently because I'm in the insurance game, field, conversation daily. So I truly believe that what my passion is helping dentists through insurance. So I believe that a client would choose me for a couple of reasons. One, my integrity. I will always do what's right by you. And my previous clients from my last company would stand behind that as well. I worked with many of them for the entire 4 years that I owned my company without a glitch. I always do right by anyone that I work with. And then I think also that you're paying for the expertise. So I think the ability to work with someone, the ability to have my cell phone number, contact me directly, not have to call some corporate office. I think there's a lot of benefits of working with a smaller but successful small business. So I would hope that people want to choose me because they know that they're going to get the white glove service and it's going to be done properly from day one.
I'm all about white glove service. I love having, everybody gets my personal cell phone number. They can reach out to me. I don't want to say 24/7 because I do sleep and I do like to disconnect every so often, but you know how fast I respond. I'm super responsive to people. That's just how I built not that Bird my company, but I built my business based on how fast, because that's how I want replies myself. So I know that's something that's appreciated, getting that white glove service.
Yes. And I will never be selling my company again. So once you have my cell phone, call me. My cell phone hasn't changed in years and years. And it was the same number with my previous company. So I truly am. It's first class. It's white glove. I want to take care of each and every person. I want to make sure that you always have my direct information.
Got it. So before we switch to the Q&A that I like to do, is there anything else that you wanted to touch base on? We'll grab your contact information and an offer to the audience in a little bit, but anything else you wanted to cover from the content perspective?
I think just making sure that when you do credentialing or fee negotiation, that you do some due diligence, you make sure that you find the best company to work with, and that you always outsource it with an expert. It is a really time-consuming, tedious process that if not done properly, it can really mess up your insurance revenue for 2 years. So making sure that you're sacrificing a little bit, and I don't cost an arm and a leg. So it's, you're investing a little bit in yourself to make sure that you have a good long-term trajectory. And I would really encourage that. I would love to even just hop on a free consultation and have a conversation with you if you have any questions about the insurance credentialing or fee negotiation process.
As you're talking, something I just recollected a memory. I think we met at the Dental and Tel meeting
Yes.
in Utah, didn't we? Before,
Yes,
I don't
yes.
think you even had your company at that point, right?
I did not. It was right before I started. That's where the fire in me, I had this passion, and I was really intimidated, and I met some really amazing people who gave me that kick to just move forward, and I jumped in 2 feet all in, and that's exactly where I met you.
I remember that. That's right. That just came up as I was thinking about that. So
yes.
That's great. That's great. All right. So let's go ahead and switch to our lightning round Q&A. If you remember, business related questions, all appropriate. So first question, tough one. Who would you love to collaborate with? And what would you love to collaborate on?
Oh, I love that. Just anyone in any industry?
Anyone, yeah.
Grant Cardone, and something with how growing business and dentistry. I love teeth. That's why I keep coming back. But I think I really like his vibe and the way he delivers and what he's built for himself and his family.
And I just quick aside, did you ever work in a dental practice?
I did, yes. So I worked in consulting for a medical and dental technology company. And then I met the best dental office managers and dentists while I was doing that. And I said, I want to be in here, but I didn't know anything about the operations, the day to day. So I actually worked for one of the most early on DSOs that I even can think of. I worked for them for a year to get my feet wet, making $15 an hour working the front desk. And I worked my way up. to then being an office manager at a private practice. And it was the best education I could have ever gotten to make sure that I know what the practices, the office managers, the team members, and the dentists are dealing with on a daily basis.
So you went from front desk to office manager. That was the dental connection you had. I didn't realize that. So, okay. If you could take a class in anything to learn anything you would like to learn, what would it be? Any class?
Yes. So Spanish, I used to live in Puerto Rico. I went to college in Puerto Rico, and I am losing it. And I speak it with my babies. And I would love to get back into some Spanish classes so I don't lose it.
That's awesome. Describe Mondays for you in one word.
I think they're exciting. I have gone through different phases in life. Sorry, exciting. One word.
Okay. How have you built a successful client base?
Truly being honest. And I think that my integrity and the ability to lead with my heart and do the right thing is how I've built really good relationships with my clients.
This is a good question here. What piece of advice would you give to college graduates who want to become entrepreneurs?
I love it. Jump in, do it. Make the sacrifices. If you can do it without financing and work a little harder to finance less or whatever it may look like, jump in with everything. We sold our bigger house so that we could pay off our vehicles. We sacrificed. I lived in a very small house while I started my company. And since then, we've built and sold 3 houses. And so the benefits will come, but the work has to be done in the beginning, and it comes from sacrifice.
That's great. Do you have a system in place to keep yourself organized?
I do. I use different softwares, CRMs, love spreadsheets, Google Sheets, and making sure that I'm very well organized. Yes.
What book have you read multiple times, or another way of asking it, what is your favorite book?
I can't say that I have a favorite book, but I really like reading on entrepreneurship and like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, kind of like life lessons, because I believe that they are relevant in all avenues of my life.
Okay, a couple more questions here. What have you learned from the most successful person you know?
Do the right thing. And it would be my dad. He was an entrepreneur, started and I think it's just live life authentically, and the grander picture will be provided.
What is your favorite aspect of being an entrepreneur?
I love collaborating with people. I love talking shop. I love talking business, and I love learning new things in how other entrepreneurs were successful, because I believe I learn every single day. And I believe that the more that we can collaborate, the further we can grow and faster.
All right. 2 more. Do you have a favorite business podcast?
I love The Raving Patience.
Stop brown-nosing. I'm glad you like that. Yes. A lot of people say that when I ask that question. Yeah. All right. And last question here is, what is one subscription, personal or business, that you cannot live without?
Grocery delivery.
Instacart.
Yes.
Hey, that's a new one, but I take, my wife would say Amazon. What's really interesting.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Amazon. When we lived in Pennsylvania, my wife never, ever bought anything on Amazon. When we moved to Florida, she lives on Amazon. It's amazing. Every day we get an Amazon package. It's like,
yes, my husband says that Amazon's going to come asking for their boxes back.
Yeah, crazy. So Angela, tell people how they can find out more about Preferred Dental Solutions, and then how they can contact you. And I know you had an offer you wanted to toss out to the listening and viewing audience.
Absolutely. So if you go online, our website is www.preferreddentalsolutions.com. Email address info@preferreddentalsolutions.com. And the phone number is my direct contact. My direct cell phone is 302-236-8856. Please call me, text me. I'd love to evaluate your practice, see if it would make sense for us to work together. I always want to make sure it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
That's great. Any final thoughts?
No, I am just so thankful to be on here a second time, Len. It's great to chat with you as always, and I'm very excited for the Supercharge event. I'll be at booth 38, so please come visit me.
Well, Angela, this was great. You're always a great guest. That's why I brought you back on. I enjoyed our first talk, and I enjoyed this one as well. If you have interest in learning more about Angela, please reach out. You have her contact information. It's info@preferreddentalsolutions.com for those that didn't get it the first time it was stated. And she will help you with your insurance credentialing and fee negotiation. If you like the episode, please tell your colleagues about it. If you think they can use her services, please reach out and let her know as well. Like us, review us, do all the things you can to promote the podcast. And again, I want to thank the sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the Doc Sites, for their support. And remember, in just 1 week from this episode, Supercharge Your Dental Practice, the second version of it, is in Scottsdale, Arizona at the Scott Resort and Spa. Check out superchargeyourdentalpractice.com and use the code RAVING to save $100 on registration. And as I always end every single podcast, remember, your reputation matters. Until the next episode, thanks, Angela, for joining me, and we'll talk to everyone soon.